This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Thursday, July 17th, 2025, and we're so glad you can join us for today's show. Coming up in today's episode, I will be joined by Sam Trainor of agmarket.net for our closing markets. But first, it is time for the rest of my discussion with Mark Storr of BASF as we talk about fungicide application and things that farmers need to be thinking about going into the stretch run of the growing season. Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm joined today by Mark Storr of BASF. And Mark, we wanted to have you on today to talk about the current state of affairs here in the state of Iowa with all the moisture we have received in the way of consistent rainfall. We've had these timely rainfalls. They've been nicely spread out, but at the same time, what that means for where we are right now in terms of crop development, how diseases are coming along in terms of their development and the pressure they're putting on the crops, and then also what that means about our nitrogen loss. What factors do growers need to be thinking about and aware of when it's time to apply a fungicide? What are the most important things that they need to have top of mind when it is time to get out in the field and apply that fungicide?
Well, historically, we've, based a lot of our recommendations on timing. The problem with the diseases and scouting for diseases is the latent period. For example, I mentioned tar spot discovered back in mid-June here in Iowa. And now we're seeing the population increase crazily. But this didn't happen overnight. But what I'm saying is by the time that disease manifests itself and appears on the plant, so it's actually there, that may have been 2 weeks or 20 days in the case of tar spot. So when you were scout a field today on, mid-July, July 11th being today, if you find tar spot infection on that plant, you have to assume the infection actually occurred as much as 20 days earlier. And so that's where it's very difficult to use traditional scouting methods to determine whether or not you should spray a fungicide. And really that's where we're at. We utilize the information we have where we know tar spot has been documented in our vicinity or in our area. You may want to take note of that because you're highly likelihood that your corn is going to be susceptible as well. And it's so critical to make the application at the right time. And historically, we've really targeted that VT R1, so full tassel to early silk stage for corn. And then normally soybeans, we target about that R2 or full bloom stage. And the reason we do that is we have excellent residual activity. All fungal diseases, particularly those in corn, are very much a part of the corn plant's life after they tassel. Corn basically acts very defensive in posture through the vegetative stages, and then once the tassel develop and the ears develop, it loses that defensive stature and really starts to concentrate on devoting its energy to feeding that ear and those kernels on that ear. And so when it does that, it gives up some of its defensive posture. So that's why it's so important that we protect the plant prior to that stage. Remember, corn has a fixed number of leaves. If we look at the upper part of the canopy from the ear leaf and above, if we remove all those leaves, that's been done in a lot of studies, you can basically reduce your yield of that corn plant by 50%. So obviously, any disease that gets to that level, up that high up in the canopy, it could be particularly devastating. And that's why we see in the case of tar spot, by Labor Day, we see brown dead plants completely dead. And I talked to a grower here, a few weeks ago that, he remarked about a story a year ago in this field southeast of Des Moines where he sprayed his corn. His neighbor did not. He raised an extra 70 bushel an acre on his corn that he treated with Veltima because of tar spot. And I think his neighbor will probably be spraying this year based on that historical record. But in the case of soybeans, they act quite differently. At R2 or full bloom, they're only about half grown vegetatively. So they can respond quite differently. Unlike corn, where the ear leaf and above represents, 2/3 to 3/4 of the yield of that total plant, In the case of soybeans, it's the middle section of that canopy. And so that's why we target that R2, R3, which, early seed development and full flower development are those stages, because we want to protect that middle section of the canopy and do the most good by providing that level of protection over those areas to guarantee our best chance of success. But, in the case of soybeans, we have a lot of yield nibblers. We don't have a tar spot disease, for example, a really devastating disease in soybean. The best example I give you would be something like frog eye leaf spot, which can be significant. If it comes early, wipes out all the canopy of that soybean plant, you could easily lose 20 to 30%, if not more, of your yield from that soybean. But we really look at soybeans in the northern part of the U.S. Generally, we don't think of diseases as being big, devastating things. They're more yield nibblers. So we lose 5 bushel from this disease or 3 bushel from that disease. But any application of a fungicide, if you can, for example, in a stand of 155,000 plants per acre, if we can just save 1 pod per plant that contains 3 beans, that's about a 3 bushel per acre yield increase. Two pods, of course, is 6. 3 pods is 9. So that's where it really adds up, is preserving those pods on the plant. And again, timing is all a significant part of that, and utilizing a product like Revitec, which is, again, the class leader in that marketplace.
Well, Mark, we've discussed a lot of interesting topics here today. You've given us a lot to think about, but is there anything else you'd like to let our Iowa growers know about as we get close to the midway point of July and really the stretch run of the growing season?
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of foliar corn applications, foliar fungicide applications made to corn already really starting this week. We got to get out of this weather pattern. It's obviously tough to fly planes and make applications when it's raining. But hopefully we'll get some windows to make those applications, because we're in the key timing here really in the next 2 weeks. We would apply those products to that early milk and early dough stage to get full benefit out of them. Beans, on the other hand, we got quite a bit of time. We're probably sitting, a lot of beans right now are right at R2. So just kind of the very beginning of the soybean application timing. So just keep an eye on the crop, look at development. If they have any questions, certainly reach out to their local retailer or their local BASF representative, or go online. We have a lot of resources available that they can check to learn about products like Veltima and Revitec. And we'd be glad to visit with them and help them solve problems on their particular fields.
He is Mark Storr of BASF, my guest here today. Mark, thanks so much for the time. Always appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week.
You too. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you to Mark Storr of BASF for joining today's show. It is time now for the closing markets, and I will be joined by Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. But first, a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff. You're watching Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Joined now by Sam Trainor of agmarket.net for our closing markets here on Ag Matters PM. And Sam, how did we trade in the grains here today?
Had a mixed trade today in the grain markets. Corn futures were down a little bit. Soybeans had a little bit of strength, and the wheat market was pulled down with the corn as well.
And Sam, I know we had some disappointing export sales numbers that we were looking at here today. Could you tell us a little bit about what we had in the report?
Yeah, so corn sales this morning came in at a marketing year low of only 98,000 metric tons. The trade was anticipating around 500,000 to 1.2 million metric tons. So well below the expectations there. It's kind of unusual compared to what we have been seeing. Obviously, the bright spot in this corn market as of late has been the exports and the demand that we've been able to sustain here. And something I want to remind the viewers of here is, although we had a very disappointing export sales report, there's only 7 weeks left in this old crop marketing year, and we still maintain a very strong pace to meet the USDA's target. Currently, old crop commitments represent a 27% increase from last year, and the USDA's projections are still only showing a 22% increase. So although we had a negative report today, I don't think it's time to hit the panic button just yet on exports, just because of one poor weekly export sales report.
And from what I understand, the soybean numbers not as dire as what we saw with the corn here today.
No, soybean numbers were a little bit mixed. The soybean exports came in within the estimates for old crop, but near the lower end, 272,000 metric tons there for soybeans. However, new crop sales were above the estimates there that the trade was anticipating. So strong new crop sales there and soybeans. And again, like I said, old crop, we've got 7 weeks left. Again, with soybeans, we're above the USDA's projection. Old crop commitments right now represent about a 12% increase from last year. Right now, the USDA's projections reflect a 10% increase. So got a little bit of leeway there as well.
On the other side of the ag marketplace, how did the livestock side trade?
We were a little bit mixed today in cattle. It's been a whipsaw effect here. Seems like you go up one day, down the next, and do it all over again here. And today was a downer day. Had the cattle futures down about 50 cents. So anymore, the 3-4 years ago, you figure a 50-cent move in the cattle markets would raise an eyebrow, but anymore, it's just seems like any other day. So not a whole lot of big news out there today, so to speak. But the hog market had a strong day. They were up nearly $2. So real strong hog trade today, and maybe trying to recover from some of its losses that we've seen here recently.
Sam Trainor of agmarket.net, my guest for closing markets here today on Thursday. Sam, what's the best way for our viewers to get in touch for more marketing information?
Best way would be to visit our website at agmarket.net, or you could give us a call here in Normal, 1-800-779-1515.
Sam, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Mark. You too.
Thank you to Sam Trainor of agmarket.net for our closing market summary. Let's take a look now at how the market numbers finished today, and we can find that information anytime under the Markets tab of our website at iowaagnet.com.
September corn closes down 3 1/4 at 4.02 even. August soybeans up 8 cents at 10.21 August soybean meal up 30 cents at 268.70. August soybean oil up $1.40 at 56.22. Chicago wheat down 7 3/4 at 533.5. Minneapolis wheat down 5 cents at 595. Kansas City hard red wheat down 5 1/4 at 517.5. September oats down 5 cents at 367 1/4. On the Merc, August live cattle down 23 cents at 223.68. August feeder cattle down 58 cents at 325 even. August lean hogs up $1.40 at 105.83. August pork cutout unchanged at 110.53. Class 3 milk up 27 cents at 17.73.
That wraps up our closing markets for today and brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can follow us on social media at Facebook and X. Don't forget to subscribe as well to our YouTube channel. You can listen to our morning, midday, and closing market podcasts, as well as our daily episodes of our Iowa Ag Matters podcast on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. For Riley Smith, Ashton Jolly, Dustin Huffman, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.